Yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party 101 ESPN. My name's Tim McKernan. That's Jackson Burkett. We have 56 minutes to make the most of. How are we going to do it today? I'll tell you how we're going to do it, brother and sister. Matt Rocchio, an Italian-American from my neighborhood, grew up within a handful of blocks of me. South St. Louis, 63109. What's up? Muttered under his breath to my producer, nay, my leader, Jackson Burkett. And I don't know what they were arguing about, but he said, now I understand why so many of the listeners hate you. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, like Tiger Woods.
People would think if they heard a conversation that I come in telling Rocchio this, that, the other thing, like what he's not doing right in his job. I simply come in and say, like, what's up, Rock? And he's like, ugh. He is frustrated. Or I'm like, oh, it's a little hot in the studio. And he'll just jump my ass.
It was stunning.
Like, I don't know, how am I supposed to like punch him in the back of the neck? And he'll be like, good to see you as well. Like, I don't understand this guy.
And then what was something that I have already sent to management from a burner email. I overheard Matt Rocchio say, and by the way, I would also trade the Blues for an NBA team. And I said, can I share that with the Balloon Party audience? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, I will share it with the Balloon Party audience.
I told Rock to tread lightly.
Yeah. So what a development that was.
Yeah, once you make that statement, you can't go back. That's fine. I'm comfortable where I am, but I got to let Rock know. It's once you say it.
How about this? Wentzville Walking Stick says Piddle's hot AF.
Thank you.
How about that?
God, that's good. My self-esteem needed it today.
Yeah, because Dan Jansen's lurking, and he's going to arrive.
I'm going to leave on a high now. I'm not going to look at the YouTube line or text line for the rest of the day. That's all I remember.
Dan Jansen's already entered, and he says, I'm glad you're back, Tiny, talking to Tiny Pee-Pee.
It's good to have all of the listeners back who might have been missing yesterday or the day before.
Tim, was LeGrand's Market around when you were a kid? Oh, you better believe it.
Called Tomboy at the time?
That sign was up there for a number of years. I don't know if it still is. Maybe I'll go by and get a Legend today.
Oh, yeah.
It is? It still says that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We would grocery shop there. Yeah, and I'm sure, look at the smirk. Look, right there. Look, I caught it. They call that Ledoux smirk. Oh, that's what the smirk said. Oh, that's what that said.
Yeah, I guess they're... I don't know.
You didn't have a Straub's nearby?
I don't know what the grocery store situation was like in the 80s in St. Louis.
Yeah, no, that wasn't about time. That was about where. That's what that was about.
Well, it was close to your home.
You couldn't get the Straub's chicken salad where you grew up? No, I couldn't. That's what that said.
Listen, I've shopped at standard grocery stores still to this day. And I go to LeGrand's. When I lived on the hill, I went there all the time.
Where'd you move now? Let the audience know.
I'm in Brentwood. That's
off Flitzinger.
No more location from there.
All right. Jackson's keeping his location a secret because he doesn't trust those of you in the audience.
That's absolutely correct.
To not visit him. You're welcome to get involved in the program. 314-399-9646, Air Comfort Service text line. I solicit mic drops. Jackson won't play them, but you can leave a mic drop. And then, of course, we have the YouTube chat, and that's where Dan Jansen and Tiny Pee-Pee are in there with Andre Scalaraca, El Gato Grande. And he says, how was the Szechuan dinner last night, Jackson? Yeah, the Blues had the home opener last night. Jeremy Rutherford was in studio on TMA. We kind of broke it down. Some questionable calls along the way to the defeat. And a goalie goal. Jackson, a goalie goal.
Nope.
Were you watching and screaming when you saw the goalie goal at the Szechuan restaurant?
No. I would have been home at the time that probably went down.
So you saw the first two periods at the Szechuan restaurant?
No, I saw 0 periods there.
Oh, God, not today. Not today. Not today. Not today. Not today.
I watched the 10 or so minute highlight package this morning, so I had somewhat an idea of what happened in last night's game. But no, I did not watch any of it live, just being fully transparent.
Too quick of a whistle on 25?
Yeah, it seems like the consensus. I don't know when. I don't know the nuances of when they blow the whistle and when they don't. If it's a loose puck, I assume you're supposed to
blow the whistle too short. What year on that?
Like early aughts, right?
I was going to go 2000.
Yeah, it was definitely in NBA 2K13. An incredible soundtrack. If
I've seen
not,
him perform it live.
maybe 2K12.
It's a Jamie Foxx concert, but Too Short came out. Very odd.
Really?
Jamie Foxx having a concert. Very odd. And the ladies were throwing themselves at him.
Too Short's from Oakland, right? So maybe
Yeah.
there's a connection there. I don't know. I don't know where Jamie Foxx is from, honestly. No, he's from Texas. No, I don't
That's
think.
right.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about Blow the Whistle. But yeah, it was done too quickly on Cairo. That's a problem. Questionable call on Toropchenko early, setting up the power play. Wild able to capitalize on that. The stat that stands out to me, and I love that Curbside podcast. Thank you to Chris Kerber, Joey Vitale, and Good Morning Grant, who puts it together. And
Seriously.
I wake up in the morning, and even though I see Holly Randall's got a new podcast every Wednesday, I listen to the Curbside podcast while I'm shaving my head and my beard. I'm shaving little shrubs all about. But I'm listening to the Curbside podcast.
AirPods, or you listen to it from the speaker?
Just got it on the phone.
Nice.
Just got it on the phone, and I'm listening. And yeah, the consensus was the Blues were on the short end of the stick on the officiating. But the stat that is damning, because this is not tied into officials, is the following. The Blues have trailed by 2 goals in all 4 of the games. Yeah. And what that tells me is while perhaps those just kind of, not paying attention, or even worse, eating at a Szechuan restaurant on the night of the opener, may look at the standings and go 2-2, not too bad. Start off on the West Coast, not an easy trip, eh? Would have liked to gotten one without, as you know, Eriksson Ek and Spurgeon not playing last night.
How many names was that?
2.
Eric. I know Eriksson Ek.
That's correct.
Is that who you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Feeling good.
And Spurgeon.
Who? Spurgeon. It kind of sounds like the old ball coach. That's Spurrier. Either way, don't pay attention to my
Yeah, it's a combination of Pierre Turgeon and Steve Spurrier. Yeah.
I know one of those guys.
You don't know Pierre Turgeon?
Heard the name. Couldn't tell you exactly who it is.
He's HOF.
Okay. All right.
That you'd look at the standings and you'd go 2-2, not too bad. But then when you go, it wasn't too far away from being 0-4. And it hasn't really been that great when you take a look at the big picture. We had a lot of people with Jeremy Rutherford in studio with us in the 9 o'clock hour on TMA this morning going, I'm a little worried. Now, we're obligated to say that which is obvious. It's 4 games in. Trailing by 2 goals in every single game is a little E.
Yeah.
A little E. And that they didn't get the best version of the Wild. I was listening to Justin Falk on the Curbside podcast. Major recommendation for subscribing to it, along with the Holly Randall podcast, for that matter.
Yeah, to be honest here.
I think Serenity Cox is the guest this week. Justin Falk's like, number one, he was kind of going into the area that I'm sure players are instructed not to, which is that call power play on Toropchenko and not a penalty. But secondarily, with your 2 favorite players with 3 names.
Eriksson Ek and Sergeron?
Exactly. Out.
Yeah.
The Blues with a little buzz on the home opener would have thought we might have gotten a little more. Yeah. Now they were out shooting them like the Dickens, but not able to capitalize. And now you sit there and go, okay, it's a little, I don't know, I just got a little uneasy with the way these things have gone, because you win the first 2 and you're going, okay, you come back, you show that resilience, that's a good thing. But then when you go, okay, yeah, they've been down by 2 goals in all 4 games, and we're not really seeing a lot there as far as opportunities. You got the top pairing that you go, is that really a top pairing? And Letty's not off to the greatest of starts.
Question.
So what I have is unease.
Sure.
Now, maybe they go out tomorrow night and handle the Isle, and all is right with the world. But I got a little bit of unease.
Yeah.
And I think it's the direction Jeremy Rutherford's kind of looking. Like, you can't tell in 4 games, because you can be a great team and have a bad 4-game stretch. But I keep making that gesture. Look at this body language. Yeah.
Question for you. Did it seem like, just till last night that they had opportunities and just didn't capitalize on them. I mean, they pretty much scored
Absolutely.
2 goals with the time running out in the first 2 periods.
Talking about the Suter goal that was justifiably, by the way, waved off.
Yeah.
It was clearly not a goal.
The one at the end of the second period.
Goal.
Yeah, that one went in.
That was a goal, and it was an early whistle. The overall, I think, is you might be looking at a situation with, you knew the Torrey Krug situation was rough as it was, then he's out, and you're going, okay, well, then that might not be the worst thing in the world, all things considered. But now Nick Leddy doesn't necessarily look like that's off to a great start with Colton Parayko. So that's a bit of a concern. You look around the league, would he be on too many top pairings for teams that are thinking playoffs?
Not in my book.
I know it wouldn't be in your book, but then that would require not eating at the Szechuan restaurant when the home opener is going on.
Maybe this is my ignorance. And
It is. I don't even need to hear the question.
Okay, I don't mean to be inflammatory when I say this.
Uh-oh.
But this is...
Who's grifting? Debuts in 48 hours. Is this a grift?
If I'm asking a question, I feel like it's a little away from grifting.
I think asking a question might be one of the most textbook forms of grifting right now.
Yeah, there's certain ways of asking questions.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to be as honest as possible.
Okay, so this is a sincere moment.
On that shorthanded goal that the Wild scored, did Jordan Kyrou get what I would call little boyed by...
Woo! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
By that the player on the Wild?
Define little boyed.
Like, he came up into his space and he said, hit the weight room, little boy. Because that to me was like the equivalent of getting dunked on in basketball.
That was a posterization, except it was on the ice.
Well, it was worse because then he slid into Binnington once, like he hit the ground, then slid into Binnington after the goal went in. It was kind of like a yard sale situation.
And they stopped whatever they were showing at the Szechuan restaurant, and they said, hold on a second, we're going to switch off this program we're watching. And I don't know what program they were watching.
It was all over the place. It looked like both a nature show and a cooking show.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, a little Bourdain-esque.
And said, we got to show you this wild shorthanded goal here.
No, that didn't come in. There wasn't a break in programming. But I did watch in the highlight. It just looked like Jordan Kyrou maybe a little out of position. I mean, a shorthanded goal, you're likely always out of position. But it seemed like he got little boyed.
You can get burned.
Yeah.
You love the forecheck.
I thought Kyrou, from the highlights I saw, played well. Like, he was creating chances.
He nearly had another one last
Throwing
night.
backdoor
and I guess
passes.
Theoretically, he should have had another one last night.
And
but he got little boyed.
Yeah, and I don't think when you're chasing someone down on a breakaway, you're likely to give a little. But he sealed him. Like the guy in the Wild sealed him, and he hit the deck.
Guys, I was there last night. Falk looked horrible as well. Only line to look ready to play was yet again our fourth line. It's becoming concerning. Yeah, WTF, as in the WTF line.
Walker, Torpchenko, and Foxia. Foxa?
God, we were
Foxa?
I mean, we were one syllable from getting home, and it would have paid 30 to 1.
And I struggle with his last name.
And then you added that Sia as opposed to just
Foxa.
Sandpaper in his game.
Indeed. I like that Torpchenko. He plays with some sandpaper.
Did the Szechuan place have an HD2 radio station to listen to?
Didn't seem like it. Had some delicious cumin beef.
There is cancer on this team. Better find it fast. Fans will not stand still for this. And then he uses the S word. They made a mistake not going after Sheldon Keefe or Dean Evison as head coach. It's from the 636.
Yeah, I would have taken Dean Ellis, but I don't know if he was available.
Dean Ellis, of course, a fictional character, although I'm sure there are some gentlemen named Dean Ellis throughout North America.
And we dedicate this show to all the Dean Ellises out there.
Oh, my gosh, what a wonderful gesture. I am sorry. I cannot listen to a guy talk about hockey that does not follow or like hockey. That's in the 314. So that's an apology to you, Jackson.
Okay, you don't have to listen. I mean, it's not like court ordered. Although that would be an interesting court order. You have to listen to these two jamokes talk for 10 hours a week.
Whoa.
Well, certainly one.
Okay.
One of the guys in the studio here is no good, and that would be me.
Okay. All right. Good. Now we're starting to speak honestly.
Although from the YouTube chat, it seems like people aren't saying I'm wrong about the Kyrou getting little boyed.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I did a little dance when you said he got little boyed.
Like in basketball.
The issue is the Szechuan thing.
Well, yeah. In basketball, you either say, like, if I saw someone like that happen, I'd say mouse in the house, Or after it happened, if I was a wild guy, I would have put my hand low to the ice to indicate too little.
Weren't the Cardinals doing that with like Marcus Stroman? Miles Michaelis was doing that.
Yes.
At some point.
Yeah, height doesn't measure heart. Yeah. But that's a common thing in basketball. Like you score on a guy and you tell him you're too little.
He just called us a jamoke. That's from Dan Jansen.
No, us as in me and Tim, but more likely me.
Thank you. Yeah, I was a little.
I bring you down. That's the problem.
I think I'm so good. I think your badness doesn't affect my goodness. Does that make sense?
It was so eloquently put.
All right, Jackson. They're active today. They're active in the YouTube chat. They're active in the Air Comfort Service text inbox. They're probably active in the mic drops. You won't play them. Doesn't matter. What do we have today on Balloon Party?
We have a Wide Berth Wednesday.
Did you just yawn in the middle of the show?
I'm trying to
fade. Just do a key bump because something you grabbed your left nostril,
right,
and then made a little like gesture, like you're like numbing it up.
No, I'm trying to fade a sneeze. Like I can feel one coming, and so I'm trying to hold it off. Stave off the sneeze.
Stave off the sneeze.
And so I thought holding my nostril, holding the septum would help that. Wide Berth Wednesday today. Talk a little blues like we just did. We have some Jerry Jones audio that I'm sure people have been listening to 101 either yesterday afternoon or this morning.
So it's kind of redundant and old news.
No, but I think, get a different opinion on it. Or if you haven't heard it yet, this will be the first time you get to.
10 hours a week? Piddles can't count either. 1 hour a day times 5 is 5 hours of Balloon Party a week. That's from the 573.
Bring it up with someone else. I've moved on.
But I mean, I had to say, in fairness, 573 is right.
But what if you were behind? Like you missed Balloon Party for a couple of days, and so now you're listening to 2 weeks in a row while you're working.
You think a lot of people are doing that?
I think some people like to, but they want to make sure.
I want to hear them break down the Blues and Kraken game from last week.
Well, I would suggest if you want like the full immersion into the show, that if you just started listening to Balloon Party, you go back to January 2022 and start from the beginning. So
you get your ass beaten, hockey.
No doubt. No one's denying that. It seems like you're possibly missing something. Whoever you are, unnamed person. My name's Jackson.
Tim, what was the abbreviated word Piddles used yesterday? That's from the 314.
Wins per game?
Winnipeg. They'll be coming to town next week.
I don't know what he's talking about. Oh, yeah. RE was if you're going back in time regarding.
I tune into 101 during 10 to 11 to listen to Tim Little Boy Jackson Burkett. That's from Marsha's burner.
That's right. Certainly radio-wise he does, but in the post, I'd be yelling mouse in the house.
You think you could post up on me?
Yeah.
Boy, that's height discrimination right there. I caught it. HR is going to hear about it.
You want it from the perimeter? I'll give it to you from there. And that goes for anybody.
Whoa. You're ready to go up against anybody?
Anybody, anytime.
What if Tatum's listening?
He's got me.
So you conceded right
He
there.
would cook me.
All right, fair enough. Jackson, they're going to text in, they're going to YouTube chat, and they're going to mic drop. You're just not going to play that. But we do have the Wide Berth Wednesday. It's Balloon Party, 101 ESPN. James Carlton, Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency. He's my insurance agent. Been my insurance agent for 5.5 years. And man, would I like it if he became your insurance agent as well, because you are going to be taken great care of, in addition to working with an agency that's constantly looking for ways to save you money. And when you need your insurance agent, that means you have had a substantial issue occur in your life, with your home, with your car, with life insurance. And that isn't something that's, let me send an email or leave a voicemail and you can get back to me in 48 hours. Now, you need it quick, fast, and a hurry. And that is why when you call 314-961-4800 in business hours, you are going to talk to somebody with James's office immediately. They pick up the phone there and they work for James Carlton. I think the world of him. That's why he's got 388 5-star reviews on Google. It's James Carlton, the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, online at carltoninsurance.net. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, call James Carlton State Farm. Welcome back to Balloon Party 101 ESPN. My name's Tim McKernan. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable. You know, to think that KMOV hired me in March of 2000 and I was 3 years younger than you are now. And I don't know if I've disappointed anybody in those 25 years.
Certainly not me. Do you think they knew what they were getting when they hired you? Like, did they know that they had, like, was it a similar feeling, you think, like when they, casted Brad Pitt and Thelma and Louise? We're like, we got something here.
Good analogy.
Well, both Missouri Sigma Chi guys.
Yeah, who didn't graduate from journalism school. Right. Yeah, and the similarities are endless. If that's the case, then you got to credit Alan Cohen, who's the general manager, and Steve Hamill, who was the news director, and Steve Savard, who was the sports director. Yeah. And I'll credit Doug Vaughn.
Yeah.
He was number 2 in the department. I came in, and I was number 3. And it's just day in and day out sports journalism since then.
Right.
And that's what I'm here to craft today. But I will fight to defend the audience from what I consider NBA grooming from 10 to 11. That's my new fight.
Hey, listen, the YouTube chat is actually discussing in-depth NBA topics.
Are they really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Deep voice, dude.
Have you won Dan Jansen over?
I don't know what's going on in there. But
you've won the audience over.
No, I think if I talked about it, they'd still hate it. But for some other reason, they're bringing it in. I mean, I know it's popular, despite some people's thoughts. Regardless, let's dive in here. Let's get entrenched, ensconced.
I'll take anything.
Cool. How do you think expectations for teams differ when it comes to each sport and each coach? How do we as fans define those expectations, and how long or short does it take to cement what their expectations are year in and year out?
It's interesting. I have to tell you, I like this question. It's making me think. It's like this would be a homework assignment. For a midterm.
Yeah, well, that's what I like to provide. The genesis for the question was I was reading an article about Ryan Day and Ohio State fans' frustrations with his inability to win what they call the big one.
Yeah.
And
I might have been, was it the Stuart Mandel letters to the
it was that, and there was a CBS
article. I was reading that this morning. Yeah, the Ryan Day thing. What is he, 61-9 in his years at Ohio State?
Yeah, but he's 1-4 in playoff / top 5 games.
Yeah, and I thought Stuart Mandel made a great point in the article that I read this morning, which was it's not like Ohio State's getting worked over in these games.
Right.
I mean, when Georgia had that dominant team, they were a hideously missed field goal away from beating Georgia when I think they were a pretty substantial underdog in the college football playoff semifinal. They were a matter of yards away from at least having the opportunity to kick a game-winning field goal in Eugene, and they were driving down the field in Ann Arbor against a team that eventually beat Alabama and Washington to win last year's national championship. If they were to part ways with Ryan Day, which, by the way, I don't think is going to happen, matter of fact, if you ask me who I think is going to win the national championship right now, I would take Ohio State. I wouldn't bet it because I wouldn't be getting enough value for my dollar. But that's that's my pick would be.
Yeah.
I know yours is Missouri, but if they were to part ways with him, I mean, one of the issues for Ryan Day, and we're breaking down Ohio State football, I wasn't anticipating it, is that he's 1-3 against Michigan, right? I think it's 1-3. It's either 1-3 or 1-4. If they lose to Michigan this year with this group that Michigan has,
at the shoe, at Horseshoe,
that's
a
different situation there.
That's way different.
That's a different situation there. But the Michigan teams he's been going up against have been some damn good Michigan teams.
Totally.
And it's not like they're getting blown off the field. So my big thing, especially with college football, is the program moving in the right direction or is it regressing? And I think Ryan Day, parting ways with him, if that's even being talked about, would be, I mean, somebody would seize that right away. Now, specific to if you want to turn it over to the Blues and the expectations this year, I like what they said this offseason. Now it's time for some of the chickens to come home to roost, so to speak. Now it's time for some of these guys to start producing. Not saying, hey, our expectations to be back in a cup window, but now it's time to see improvement year over year, which is saying something considering last year they had a pretty high point total for where the expectations were relative to going into the season. So I think that's why, from a Blues fan perspective, I would imagine most hardcore Blues fans, the ones who didn't eat at a Szechuan restaurant last night and watched the game, they'd be like, yeah, they're 2-2, and it was great to win in Seattle and San Jose, and those were fun comeback wins. And you played Vegas close, 24 hours after playing San Jose. But my guess is a few people, more than a few people, are a little concerned and or discouraged through the first 4 games. And that is relative to expectations. So I think expectations get set by front offices, by managers or coaches, and certainly media.
Yeah, that was kind of my next question is like, how often do you think that the media/fan base expectations are different than the front office/team expectations? And following up on that, do we ever truly know what the team's expectations are? Because they can say one thing, mean another, or not say anything about their expectations.
Well, I mean, with the Cardinals this past season, I thought one of the screaming tells I had before we even got to the moment of all moments, Ali Marmol's extension following a last place season, which was just, I mean, for the record books. I hope that I don't see something like that again where I'm just like, okay, that is so egregious, was when John Mozeliak was at the winter warm-up and he starts selling Yadier Molina. You know, you excited? As a fan asks him a question, he goes, well, you excited about Yadier Molina being back this year? And man, I'll tell you, he was all over the place outside of the United States.
Yeah, ever present.
In 2024. And I'm like, oh boy, they're selling the Yadier Molina. You know, they've been able to do in 2022 pools, Wainwright, Molina, final season for 2 of the 3. The Wainwright farewell tour in 2023. And now we're going to talk about Molina being back. I'm going, oh boy, he must not feel too great about this.
Right.
But yet the guise under which the Marmol extension was, well, now that we fixed the starting pitching,
That's right.
we wanted to make sure that we took care of Ali for the long term. And again, send a message to the fan base that you can finish in last place and receive an extension. Even though, for the record, I don't put that on Ali Marmol. I just wouldn't have extended him. I think it's dreadful optics. But hey, this is an organization that has really been perhaps the pinnacle in professional sports of dreadful optics over the last few years. So, hey, keep on brand.
Yeah. I feel like more often than not, media/fan expectations would line up with
I would agree
team's.
because the media's expectations, which then create the fans' expectations, come from the management teams.
Right.
So that's where it's going to come. Now, at the same time, whether it be college football or spring training, hope springs eternal in August in college football and in March in most spring training camps. Certainly there's usually about 10 teams going into it that know that they'll be fumble effing around. It's a tradition in Pittsburgh, and seems like the Marlins enjoy it as well. But, yeah, I think that you're getting your frame of reference from the management, and then that is then given to the fans, and that's where it comes from. I also think if you sign a big-time free agent in baseball, that gets it going whether the media is excited about it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, expectations obviously shift all the time throughout the season. You can look to New York right now, Gotham City, and
Nice. That was a sick dropping.
Thank you. Devontae Adams being traded to the Jets. That certainly not changes expectations.
Kind of was looking around to see what the Jets Super Bowl odds are.
They
Went from plus 4,000 to plus 3,500.
Yeah, I don't think any team usually is one player away. I rarely think that, at least.
Garrett Wilson.
I like Garrett Wilson. I wish he would wear the tighter sleeves. I don't like the loose Peyton Manning style sleeves.
Your thoughts on Garrett Wilson's sleeves? 314-399-9646. You can also talk that over in the YouTube chat. It's 10:35 at St. Louis. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers. Tim McKernan and Jackson Burkett with you. The program is called Balloon Party. It's driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, Munganess Burkhardt Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. That's Jamie Burkhardt. That's Peter Munganess. That's good people, brother. Couldn't say enough good things. I don't know. You get me. I guess I got 60 seconds to say enough good things. What am I going to say? Quality individuals go out of their way to take care of customers, responsive, proactive. And I was out there, I saw Ryan Seibert. My wife needed to get new tires on her vehicle. And I said, man, I get more emails about you guys and how people love working with you and how they're never going to go anywhere else. And I go, what are you guys doing? And he goes, well, when people walk in, we make sure we treat them like a priority instead of like they're an inconvenience. And I go, man, it's so simple, but it's so effective. That's how people want to be treated when they're a customer. Makes it feel welcoming. Makes them feel like they're in a place that they know they can count on. Well, that's Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues lose last night. Final score of 4-1 at the hands of the Minnesota Wild. Blues are off tonight. They'll be taking on the Islanders tomorrow night. You can catch that game right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame at 6 p.m. Puck drop at 7 p.m. But tonight on 101 ESPN, you can catch Game 3 of the Dodgers and Mets right here, 101 ESPN. Pregame at 6:30. First pitch at 7. That series is tied 1-1. That was another SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back to Balloon Party. My name is Tim McKernan. That's Jackson Burkett. It's 101 ESPN, YouTube channel. Wentzville Walking Stick, who talked about how hot you were to start the show. He's still in there enjoying you.
Nice. Hi, Wentzville Walking Stick. Walking sticks are scary.
What about ones from
Wentzville? You can really be from any territory, and I'm not a big fan. That or praying mantis. Creepy.
I'll be driving through Wentzville en route to Columbia, Missouri on Friday afternoon for 2 nights for homecoming. Fight Tiger, War Eagle.
Hell yeah.
Then I'll be sitting there having libations, watching some Tennessee, Alabama, doing a little film study for next week. Mm-hmm. And then Georgia travels to Texas. ILL hosts the Wolverines. How do you do?
A really good slate. I mean, we talked about last week being like probably the best slate of the year. I think this Texas-Georgia game could be another game of the year candidate. I think that's going to be outstanding. Very much looking forward to Tennessee-Alabama. Kind of a must-win for both teams. I mean, kind of absolutely a must-win for both teams.
Kind of absolutely just drives home your confidence.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't great.
So the Szechuan was good?
I really liked it.
Yeah, spicy.
Yeah, it's these peppercorns that like they're not necessarily super spicy, but they numb your tongue, and I don't like that feeling.
That seems to be something you're into. What's your next question here on this Wide Berth Wednesday?
Just real quick. This is a quick one.
Oh, quick hitters. I like quick hitters.
This is a quick one. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about this, and I wanted to ask you, which playoff format style do you prefer? The NHL/NBA style of 2 games at home, 2 games away, and then 1-1-1, or Major League Baseball's 2-3-2?
The pause is me in the tank, really, and I can say anything, and some people are going to agree and some people are going to disagree. And in the whole scheme of things, the honesty answer is it doesn't matter, but I want to give the people honesty because this is honesty in media. Baseball's is probably different because they try to...
It's the travel.
Well, no, everybody's got to travel. It's the pitching. The pitching, you can't space it out,
right.
Because then you bring in... The ace can start 3 games, theoretically, more often than not. I guess I would like the 2-2-1-1-1.
Yeah, that's what I generally prefer.
Because if you're down 3-2, as was the case, I can recall, if I'm not mistaken, in both 2000 and 2002, I'm on the field at Busch Stadium. Cardinals, I think, lost the first 2 to the Mets in 2000 and first 2 to the Giants in 2002, and I'm going, crap, we're not coming back here. I mean, I'm coming back, but I'm not coming back to watch baseball.
Right.
So, however, in 2004, I was on the field at Fenway Park after the first 2 games, and I go, we're not coming back here either.
Yeah, works both ways. Yeah, I think because if you can steal one, if you're the road team, you can steal one of those first 2. Now you got 3 games at home coming up.
If I have my druthers, I want to see Ohtani Judge in the World Series.
Yeah, me too.
But you ask me to wager? I think I'm taking the Mets.
Ooh.
You want some action? I don't want to be pulling for that because I want it to be Dodgers Yankees. So I don't want to be pulling against what I want.
I don't feel strongly enough.
It's kind of like the Missouri under win total, even though I certainly don't care nearly as much about this.
The Mets are too hot for me to.
So we're fading.
Pick against them right now. Because obviously I think the Dodgers have a better roster. But
it's got a goofball pitching situation.
Yeah. And then when you're looking at the Yankees, the Guardians are pulling an 06 Tigers where they can no longer field or catch baseballs. So.
Yeah, they got a little bit of a situation. 2 Gold Glove finalists converging last night in the middle infield at Yankee Stadium. Oh, the wind must have been a howling as remnants from Milton circled in the Bronx. And that was a Rockio drop in that too, wasn't it?
It was a Rocky. Oh, I guess. I don't know. Rocky has a great head of hair.
Now we're back on Matt.
Here's a brief aside.
Do you have it? Because that was a quick hitter.
That was a quick hitter.
Okay.
I thought it was fun. We've talked about worst losses that we felt during TMA today. What do you think is the consensus pick for St. Louis fans? We can go generationally.
I think you got to go generationally. For those who are I guess I'll go 50 and above. I still think it'd probably be 85 World Series Game 6. Doug Vaughn was saying for him as probably in like elementary school, I would guess, the 68 World Series, the Cardinals were up 3-1. Curt Flood slips against the Tigers. I asked him if Curtis Granderson slipping in 2006 made up for it. He said it did not. It did not. But I think the 85 World Series Game 6 would have to be it.
I think it would be the consensus. Like, if you were to ask St. Louisans, that would be the consensus pick. If you were to go generationally, that would certainly be one for a generation. I don't know if, like, my generation, I probably wouldn't be just because.
But I think this, because you were born in 98, so I don't think I can say Super Bowl 36, because then it's going to be Super Bowl 36.
Yeah, I don't remember at all.
So then what is yours?
For me personally, it's like one of the Mizzou losses, like whether it be Norfolk State or whether it be Auburn in the SEC championship in 2013. But for like saying,
God, that's interesting, because they were less than a year apart. I guess a year and a half apart. Yeah, March of 12 and December of 13. All right, I lived through them both. I'm a Missouri fan. The Auburn one, it's like Auburn was a really good team. Norfolk State, all due respect, wasn't. And Missouri had just won the Big 12 tournament going into the SEC. But the thing about the Missouri-Auburn thing was, hey, they're doing the same thing every play. Why aren't we stopping it? And then Trey Mason gets drafted by the Rams. I have him on the show I was doing with Jim Edmonds. And, Edmonds wasn't really interested in the interview. He's always looking at pictures of tornadoes on his iPad. And so I'd get to just like take over the interview. And I go, hey, when you guys played my alma mater, were you running the same play every play? And he goes, yeah. And we kind of were surprised that you guys never did anything different. And I go, I was at the Georgia Dome, and I was thinking the same thing. But, I was cut from the freshman team at the U-High, so I don't really feel like I'm in a place to question the strategy. But that's the part that, like they lost to Alabama the next year. I was at that one at the Georgia Dome. You go, okay, you just tip your cap.
That was down the first drive.
That didn't
Shane
happen.
Ray got booted, and it was over.
If you maybe try to stop the jet sweep and Trey Mason running for 400 yards, you might have been able to play Jameis Winston for the national championship. That Missouri team that lost to Norfolk State as a 2 seed could have certainly won the national championship.
Yeah.
But they lost to Norfolk State. I don't know. It's tough because there are two different types of losses. All time for me, it's got to be 85 World Series Game 6. I think the fact that I was at the Super Bowl, I found this too. And I don't know if fans can put themselves in this position for games that you were at. I have found, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I was working and not covering it. I don't know. But I was at Super Bowl 36, and for whatever reason, it didn't bother me as much as I think people who are in St. Louis watching it on television. And I don't have I guess because I was focused on, I got to get, when Warner hit Prohl to tie the game, we had to leave. We weren't in the press box. We were in seats, annex. Mm-hmm. And we had to, we couldn't go on elevators for whatever reason. Obviously, they were upper deck. And so we had to walk all those concourses down to the Superdome, down to the field level. And then when Vinatieri kicks that ball, I'm crowded in with, I would guess, what had to be around 300 media members watching on television. And then the media members, most of them start cheering. Not because they were from Boston or, the Northeast, but they just wanted to see the upset.
Right.
The Rams were such a huge favorite. But it's like, I got to go do a job, and so I'm not thinking that way. At the same time, when the Cardinals lost some heartbreaking games to the Diamondbacks in 2001, Steve Savard and Doug Vaughn would love when I would pop up in the satellite window, and it looked like I had been crying because the Cardinals lost a game. So I don't know. I can only speak from experience on that. But I feel like when you're at the game, it might soften it versus the television experience.
I can see that.
But I don't necessarily know why, and this might just be me, and I've got a few psychological issues. That might surprise people, though.
I can understand that, but I have a follow-up. Like, what's a worse way to lose? Losing at the last second or getting smoked? So, like, the reference I would use is, like, Alabama
smoked.
Yeah, so Alabama losing to Georgia on that last-second touchdown in 2017, and then like TCU playing Georgia and getting absolutely blown off the field.
I think getting smoked. People talk about the 2004 World Series and it being brutal, and I mean it was brutal as far as the way it went down. But my goodness, the 2001 NLDS was way worse from my standpoint than the 2004 World Series. I remember, as crazy as this sounds, I don't want to make it like guys were playing grab ass in the locker room, because that's not what the deal was. But the locker room after I was in the clubhouse when the Cardinals lost that World Series to the Red Sox, and it was not. I mean, I never saw baseball players cry, with the exception of the 2001 NLDS. It was just such a, and I talk about it like everybody knows. That's when Tony Womack had a walk-off base hit, and the Cardinals lost that series to the Diamondbacks, which eventually went on to beat the Yankees and win the World Series. And I think because of the way it went down, it was such a gut punch.
Yeah.
I would imagine, I like the Blues in 2001 lost in overtime in the Western Conference Finals. I think 3 of their 4 losses, including the series clincher, was Sakic in overtime. And I think when it's like that, and you're so close.
Yeah, roller coasters to me seem like way worse.
Yeah, I may have told a little story that I saw this interview with Ray Bork, who was on the 2001 Avalanche, won his cup with that team after years of not getting there with the Bruins, and he goes, toughest series I was ever part of was the 2001 series with the Blues, and I'm going, wow. How about that? I mean, here's a guy who's an all-timer, and he's talking about this 5-game series that in St. Louis people might remember, but who would have thought that Ray Bork would cite it as one of the toughest he's ever been a part of. So I think, like the 13 loss to Auburn smarts a hell of a lot more than the 14 loss to Alabama. You're like, yeah, you just don't belong on the field.
Yeah,
like the Missouri A&M game a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
That sucked.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was barely watching the second half. It's
Yes.
very disappointing.
You can kind of process it in the moment, whereas...
But they lost to LSU right around the same time the last year, and I had to go upstairs and excuse myself from my family, and I'm going, what is wrong with me? I'm 47 years old.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Anyway, we got a break. 10:52 in St. Louis. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN. You know what, Jackson, on your worst losses,
Yeah.
I left one out. And the non-ling, Kevin Lorenz, former producer on TMA, texted me, and he's 100% right on this, brother. You won't remember it. You won't remember it only because you weren't born, though.
Right.
1996, Detroit, Michigan, Joe Louis Arena, Steve Yzerman, John Casey. Oh, sweet mother of mercy.
Steve Yzerman spells his last name with a Y first.
Yeah, and I think that probably really drove home the misery right there. I was, I think, was it at Lathrop or Jones?
I don't know. Neither of them are still around.
Right, where I was watching that with my female lover.
Maybe Laws?
I don't think I was in there.
Okay.
And when that puck went in, so that's a nice play. I'd be curious, though, because you cited 2 Missouri incidents. The question for those of you just joining us here on Balloon Party is, generationally, what are the worst St. Louis area sports losses? Plenty of people who listen to this show, and they certainly make us aware of it, are not fans of the Missouri Tigers.
Sure. Yeah.
And I understand that. So if you take that out of the equation and you're 26 years old or younger, so therefore Super Bowl 36 is really outside of your memory, what would it be?
Right. So I would first cite, even though this is not like an actual game, the Rams leaving is certainly one of them, but that's not really the question. The 13 World Series, I feel like there's nothing there that would really be. The 14 thing against the Giants, like I don't think that was, I don't think that wasn't gut-wrenching to me. It's kind of writing on the wall situation.
It's confusing.
Certainly. And then Blues, like 2016, after they beat the Blackhawks, I don't even remember the series after that, but that might be a hockey
Beat the
thing.
Stars, Game 7. Nice knowledge, nice show prep ass.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think anything there. I don't know if there's been like a true devastating one for the Cardinals or for the Blues. 2009 against the Dodgers really sucked because that was a really good team and you had Waino and Carpenter healthy. So that one, like, but also you were in the midst of like, boy, the Cardinals are going to be good forever. So I don't think it hurt as bad.
In 2009, that wasn't the mindset because they hadn't been to the playoffs since 2006.
Yeah, but you had Carpenter and Waino healthy. You had Albert still on the team. I felt at least that like in my whole life the Cardinals had been good, and I didn't think that was going to change.
This is surprising, but I thought for sure I would gaze into the text inbox and see an answer that would stand out like the '96 Blues Red Wings, or of course the '85 World Series, Super Bowl 36. I guess we don't have. 2012 NLCS is kind of a nice play, but again, there wasn't anything in that game or that series. You were up 3-1. Barry Zito beat the Cardinals at home.
Yeah,
that was rough. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that there is a moment.
Well, I get roasted if
if you're not a Missouri fan. If you're a Missouri fan, you got some choices. I mean, ILL would say 2005 probably, 100%. But again, if you were born in '98, were you old enough to really?
I wasn't. That's for sure.
It's 11 o'clock. I need to land the plane. Go ahead. You're a prince.
2010 in Seattle when they had a chance to go to the playoffs and lost to Charlie Whitehurst.
Okay.
That devastated me.
That's Jackson Burkett. He is going to do a live YouTube feed breaking down the Blues game last night. Starting at 11:15. For Jackson Bennett Burkett, I'm Timothy Michael McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess. St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN.